Welcome, everybody. It's episode 197. Kevin's here. Kevin's outdoors, in situ, living his best life. I'm here. I'm sick. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to try our best. So be ready to get blasted with Diones Ratsnake action. First, sponsor shout-outs. VetTNA.com for all of your testing needs. You already know you need it, so just go ahead and do it. Hashtag shit happens for $5 off the crypto panel. Kelley, Small Town Xotics. He will be on Reptiles Unplugged tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Reptiles Unplugged channel. So we should be done by then, unless we're super long-winded and can't control ourselves. So go over there and follow along on Reptiles Unplugged. Bravo Zulu ball pythons. She'll be at the Midwest Reptile Expo on June 8th, vending ball pythons and maybe some little dry goodies. Support that if you're in the area. Stoneage ball pythons. I don't know what he's doing. He's probably breeding ball pythons in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you, Justin. Andrew, he's got a lot of clutches coming up. Many species. And he's got rodents. Go for cocoa in the Tacoma area. If you need rodents or go for cocoa, please message Andrew. Powerhouse Pythons. Gray family snakes. They have lots of clutches dropping this week and 5 currently in the incubator. And their het paddless clutch is hatching any day now, so that's very cool. A rare ball python morph. Gray family snakes. And Chris said Venus Reptilia just had a litter of baby longicauda, so congratulations, Chris. So if you want to get on the longicauda train, which that's been bumped up to full species status now. It's not even a subspecies anymore, dogs. Message Chris at BNS Reptilia. All right, I did it. I was not too incoherent, so that's pretty good for me. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm having a lot of difficulties this year. We talked about before I started. You're probably going to see a lot of sweat because it's really warm and humid out here. But it's also pretty warm inside, so having climate issues. I'll roll with it. Just forgive my slovenly appearance tonight.
You're doing great.
First time on a podcast, so it's all downhill from here.
Perfect is the enemy of good. That's what I think. So as long as you're here and you're happy to have a little talky talk, that's good enough for me. So we all thank you for being here. Sure. Jennifer's here. Autumn leaves. Carissa. Lisa. Okay. First, give me your 90-second elevator pitch for who Kevin is, if you don't mind.
I live in West Virginia, and I grew up here. So a lot of you will probably laugh at my accent that I don't know that I have, but people tell me I do. I've always
How do you say water?
Water.
You say it water?
I say water. Did I do it wrong?
Some of them say water.
Well, I haven't heard that one.
Like in the northern panhandle. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. I've always been interested in reptiles. I had found box turtles in preschool. Went from there, caught garter snakes. We both studied under Dr. Polly at Marshall University before he retired. I got a copy of his book when I was 11 years old, and I remember thinking, half an hour down the road is this college with this herpetologist. That's where I'm going to go. Everybody told me he'd retire before I got there, and he didn't, so that was great. Then he stuck around for like 10 more years after I left, so it had nothing to do with me. And I had like the least consequential thesis of anybody, probably. I was so enthusiastic, and it was just a big nothing burger. I studied longicauda, not boa longicauda, but Eurycia longicauda, the long-tailed salamander, in caves, and found some stuff that was interesting, but ultimately not very important, I don't think.
It was important to me.
Well, you're the only one. I had like a photo library of all these individuals, and I tracked for about 2 years each individual, how far it moved over what period of time. And I thought I'd find something interesting about home ranges or migrations, and literally every individual is just different in those cave systems. I found some individuals in about a 4 to 6 foot span every time I saw them for 2 years. Others would move 150 feet in a week.
Were they males, do you think?
No, I tried to correlate it to reproductive status, gender, maturity. There was no explanation for it other than just individuals. They just do what they want, I guess.
They're funny because I've actually road cruised Longicauda more than you would think you would.
I've heard of people doing that a lot. I never have, but other people have success with that.
Like, and not at a particular, like if it's really rainy and the road is running beside a spring or something where they hang out. Like there are spots in like Jefferson County where you can road cruise. Just Longicauda, just like on the side of the road, be like, hey. And you sort of expect that for something that's like migrating somewhere on purpose, like a mole salamander. But you don't expect that for Longicauda. But they're just like, I'm just leaving. I'm like, where are you gonna go?
There's a precedent for that in the literature. There was I want to say it was an abandoned mine in Pennsylvania, if I remember right. They tracked a couple hundred individuals moving from the rear of this mine out to the surface and back seasonally. It's like they would.
So they are sort of moley. They're not. Which makes it
for the winter, and they would come out to the surface in the summer, basically.
I wonder what they were doing. My weird ones. It was right next to a cow pasture. So there's like nothing else for them to do after that. Maybe they thought there was somewhere to go.
Was it karst at all? Were there any?
Yes. Okay. But so maybe there was a sinkhole that I didn't know about in that part of Jefferson County. But
find ways to get places that I can't follow. They're expert crevice navigators, I think.
That's what she said. Did you ever see a Lucifuga?
Oh yeah.
Cool too.
I kind of some notes and did a little bit of stuff on everything else I found along the way because I had so little to go on with what I was trying to find. I was trying to find long-tailed salamander eggs because at the time they'd only been recorded twice. Once just scattered underwater, I think in running water attached to boards and stones. It was like submerged railroad ties or something weird like that. And the other time they were suspended from a cave ceiling above water with a female wrapped around them, apparently guarding them.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like, oh, well, do they guard them or do they leave them? And do they lay them in a clump or do they scatter them? And are they in water? Are they out of water? So I never found the first egg and still haven't. So I didn't answer that. But a guy named
someone else answer it?
Nasdrowicz, I'm not sure how you say his last name. He did his dissertation on them pretty much just after I got done. He found tons of them in spring houses in Pennsylvania, Delaware, that area. Mm-hmm. He did a fantastic job answering all the questions I couldn't about how they reproduce. So, yeah, I didn't contribute much at all, really.
So, do you want to fight him?
No.
A little bit.
I've never met him, but
yeah, I'm sure he's a great guy.
He could probably take me just from reading his dissertation.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. Every little piece of science helps.
I did find Midland mud salamanders breeding in a ditch in my parents' front yard, basically toward the end of my thesis work, which they're a species of concern here, and nobody knows much of anything about their life history. So that would have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get to do anything. But we're not here to talk about salamanders. Sorry, I'm getting off on tangents. I also keep snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're here to talk about, I think.
All right. When was the first time you either bought a diamond rat snake or learned that they existed? And what's your relationship with the species now?
Say it was 2018 that I got my first ones. Imported some from Europe, not personally, but going through the channels as people do. I think I saw them on a Facebook group first, and I don't really remember what it was that really made me want to try them, but for some reason I did. Somebody had kind of a variety. I remember they had some from Siberia, some from China, a couple different localities. I think I got my first Vladivostoks. I don't know if they were part of that same shipment, but within a year, the same year, I think. Mm-hmm. Just enjoyed them right off the bat. They're they're so underrated. People don't seem to know about them, or if they do, they're like, yeah, I heard somebody talk about them. They seem to like them, but they're just, I mean, they're so you've kept them, you know. They're easy, they're problem free, they're kind of a perfect size, very manageable.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of genetic potential, both between locales naturally occurring just for selective breeding type things, but also a bunch of morphs now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of this untapped potential that I feel like hardly anybody's really doing it, especially in the US, I should say. In Europe, they seem to be a little bigger. The majority of these morphs, from what I've seen, were coming out of Russia, which they're native to. They've got a huge natural range. It's like the largest range of maybe any snake in the world, maybe just colubrids, I don't remember, but it's this enormous natural range for the species.
Right, it's like Ukraine all the way to China, up to Mongolia, down to Korea, and they don't go past like the Himalayan mountains, but like so they're probably going to be split up. Let's be clear. Eventually,
great on my mental geography, so I don't know where everything fits together there. But when I heard Siberia, I was kind of surprised they occur in Siberia. They get up to some pretty far northern latitudes, and they can handle some severe winters. They can brumate like nobody else. Maybe a Russian rat snake will give them competition. I keep those too.
yeah, I think they outbeat Russians for like hardiness or whatever.
Oh,
They just feel like they're ready to brumate for 9 months.
Yeah.
And they do not ask questions. I like them because they're very corn snake like in many ways, but they solve corn snake problems. Like they're legal in every state. They're smaller adult size than corn snakes, but the hatchling is bigger.
And the hatchlings never want lizards or any kind of...
Hatchlings never want lizards, and they don't have a trillion billion eggs.
Yeah. They tend to lay smaller clutches of larger eggs. I think the most I've gotten so far has been 15 eggs from a large Chinese female. The Chinese individuals seem to grow a little larger than the Russian, the more northern latitude locales. But they weren't all fertile either, which I've had some weird fertility issues across the board with multiple species in the last year or two. So that's probably more of a me problem. But, well, my snakes have had fertility issues the last few years, I should say. But I'm still trying to figure out what's going on there. Which you weren't sure about brumating yours. You got them maybe down to the 50s, I think, and you still had success with them. Is that right? Or upper 50s?
and sometimes, like the one Chinese one, I didn't brumate her at all, and she still laid viable eggs.
See, I went 1 year and basically just did the like normal fluctuating. My reptile room is over our garage, so it tends to be warmer in the summer and cooler in the winter than the rest of the house. Nothing crazy, but maybe like 65 to 75 degrees on average throughout the year. So something like a natural 10-degree temperature swing. I just kind of messed with photo periods 1 year and the natural cooling. I think I turned off the heat pads, and I thought, we'll see if it works. And they bred, but the females didn't develop eggs, and like not even infertile. So I had no luck with that. The Russian rats bred, though, which I always heard people say they wouldn't in those conditions.
So. Yeah, I think a lot of people say a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because like if Diones ratsnakes can come from the Korean peninsula or southern China, those places aren't apocalyptic Siberia. So like there's obviously going to be genetics that are more used to temperate-ish winters, milder winters. So maybe it depends on the locality you're talking about. But I think in general you should brumate them. That's like great advice. But people are always like, you need to hard brumate them. Fuck them up and put them on put them in a freezer, make them 42. And I'm like, I'm not sure if you have to do that. But maybe you should. I don't know.
A mini fridge, and I kind of outgrew it and started using my garage. And I was paranoid at first because we had some kind of record cold temperatures a year or two ago, I think. And I got one of those little Govey Bluetooth thermometers. And it was dipping down. Like we were hitting single digits and down to 0, I think, that winter. I can't remember if it got into the 30s I started running a space heater out there just to be safe so it wouldn't go crazy, but it definitely got into the low 40s. And
right, they can take it. I just don't know if they have to.
Oh, yeah, I don't think they have to at all. But I was just going to say, they're definitely a little more aware than any of the other snakes. Like my gray-banded king snakes are kind of like more or less comatose. They're not really moving at all. The Diones will still sort of look at you, tongue flick a little bit. I had a pair escape their brumation box in my garage. Somehow, it was one of those latching lids. So I really don't know how they got that open, but they did. And thankfully, they were both still kind of slow and found them on the crawl out there. But I mean, they're kind of active during brumation.
Yeah, I would agree. They'll like, I don't know, like tail rattle and give you the full side eye and whatever at 60 degrees.
Yeah, it's mention that I have a male, a little Chinese locality male. He's in his worst mood during brumation. He's pretty much fine all year, but when he's out there cold and sluggish, if I take the lid off, he'll rattle and kind of take a real slow swing at me. He's just sort of like, it's like he knows he's at a disadvantage, so he gets a little defensive. But, you know, overall, they're just naturally mellow snakes. Even hatchlings don't seem to have that nervous, like baby corn snake phase in my experience.
No.
Owls tend to be a little more nervous in my experience, like more prone to tail rattling, I'll say, but just not striking, not really flighty. I think they just kind of express if they're feeling a little nervous, they're a little more prone to rattle their tails. But yeah, they're just nice snakes.
Yeah. I like it when they're born. They're very like sturdy feeling. They're like a king snake or something feeling. Is it weird? Because like a corn snake baby, some of them are nothing. They're like 5 grams of nothing. And you're like, how are you going to eat? And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But because the eggs are so big on Diones most of the time, they're like prioritizing making a baby that could go down for brumation instantaneously, hypothetically, and not die from starvation in brumation, because they're sort of wired up for like maximum production, the minimum amount of time. So she keeps her eggs internally for a long time. She like internally incubates the eggs. What was your shortest incubation time for?
I made a note of this. I knew this would come up.
It's because it's crazy.
Male has had shorter incubation periods than my Russian female, which seemed weird to me. I would have thought like the Vladivostoks would be more attuned to a shorter active season, maybe a shorter incubation period for that reason. But the Chinese that I have right now are from XI''IN. I have no clue how you pronounce that in Chinese. Xian, Xian. I'm sorry if somebody knows and I'm butchering it, but wherever that is in China, I've seen it on a map. I can't remember now, but I've basically incubated them at room temperature the last 2 clutches, which was mid-70s at the time. One was 16 days, one was 19 days. Eggs laid to hatching. So essentially 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd always read that it was like 3 weeks to a month, and I'm like, their like houses must be cold or something, because mine have always been like 2 to 3 weeks, and that's like in a snake room where it's like 78 or something.
Yeah, I'm incubating mine a little warmer this year. I got a clutch from that female sometime in the last week or so. I think I've got them at about 78 to 79 now, so they may be even shorter this year.
I think people will often be like, Diones Ratsnakes hate heat. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. And you can like,
no, I've kept mine. Well, I'll say this: I've got some in racks with a couple ball pythons right now. So, whatever I've got that temperature set at 80, upper 80s, I want to say, on the heat source. I mean, they use it, especially when gravid. When females have eggs or are developing eggs, they will hug the heat source in my experience. But obviously, they come to the cool end, they get down to room temperature and have plenty of room to thermoregulate, but they will definitely use heat if it's available to them.
Yeah. Yes. And I think I've had people be like, they shouldn't have any heat. They should be kept in the low 70s. I'm like, no, because they act like they want it. So you should give them something.
Rat snake or some high elevation dainty kind of thing.
Yeah, they won't desiccate and like float away like some fossorial snake. I think that's what they're thinking is happening. Like they're tough. They just can tolerate being cold, but they are functionally like a colubrid when they're up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't treat them special at all. I've kept them. When I say alongside, obviously I'm not cohabitating, but I mean I've had them in the same conditions as king snakes, as corns, rat snakes. Like I said, in Iraq with ball pythons, just they're fine with anything. They make the best of it. It seems like.
Yeah.
And as far as the babies, what you mentioned about them starting off bigger, even the smallest ones I've had, the kind of more numerous clutches with some smaller babies, they'll take surprisingly large meals and digest them really quickly.
Right, they're stretchy like a corn snake is stretchy, not like a king snake where they're sort of gape limited.
Yeah.
Which I think is helpful too.
Right.
Like a lot of these things make a colubrid a better starter, like not being gape limited, not eating lizard scenting. They're pretty good.
I was like, oh, you need like day old pinkies, like the extra small pinkies, and they'll take them obviously, but then I'm like, whatever. I get to feeding all of them, like, oh shoot, I accidentally fed that one off. Here's a big one left, and yeah, they take it, and then they come back looking for more. I mean, they'll have such a big lump. You're like, no, you can't handle more, and then sometimes you're like, well, okay, well, let's try it. And I've never had one regurge, other than one experience, and this was the only experience I've ever had this with. I cohabitate most of my adults, at least when they're in the breeding season pairs. Mm-hmm. But I was keeping a clutch of hatchlings together for the first. It had been probably 2 or 3 sheds, so a couple weeks, I guess. And I did have one eat another one. So I had a cannibalism event. And it was very obvious because, when a snake eats another snake its same size, it's all bloated up.
Accordion up.
Yeah. And it mostly digested that sibling. I'm not really sure which end it came out, but whatever came out, you could still, it was kind of weird. It was mostly the scales that were left. It's like kind of the internal structure was pretty well dissolved, but you're like, obviously this is a snake skin. Mm-hmm. It was either pooped or vomited, whatever. But
I don't co-house the whole time, but I'll keep a pair together for like a day and then whatever. So I don't have enough males. I have one. He's just busy. Yeah. And because she was watching me feed other snakes, she felt him touch her and she took a shot at the male and coiled him up. So they're very hungry when they want to be. So you could co-house them if you could keep them from misidentifying each other, but they know each other are snakes. But this is the first time I've had like adults attempt to cannibalize each other.
Yeah. If I keep the heads separated, if I'm feeding one at this end, one at this end, it's generally good. Mm-hmm. If one still has a mouse they're working on, you got to get another one handy or get the one away from it. But once they're done eating, they're very interested. They'll tongue flick each other's faces a lot, but I've not really had any issues with adults. They seem to have enough sense to know, you're in the snake. Yeah. But they definitely.
I think it was his fault because she was up front, like hunting the front, waiting for me to feed her, and he moved over her tail, and she's like, I'll just eat this. And I could hear them like flapping around. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Pulled them apart. Thank you, Jennifer, for the super chat. $20, baller. Wow. Her question is, what is your favorite locality of Diones Ratsnake? We can start looking at pictures now if you want.
Sure we can.
We can.
I've got my little, I meant to organize these and I didn't. I'll just look at your screen. How about that? All right. Honestly, that's a tough one. I've kept a few different things. Let me preface it with this. I was going to try to make this connection early on. I've used vet DNA because I have had 2 different orders of Diones rat snakes come in from overseas where several to most of them had crypto. Mm-hmm. And that really sucked. And I lost a bunch of them, had to euthanize some, of course, had to quarantine the heck out of everything, felt super paranoid for years. Mm-hmm. Like the ones that were clean, I tested like 5 more times because that makes me paranoid. But some of these, I like your black female, the chassin, however you would pronounce that. I had one which was labeled as a melanistic Far East at the time, which I've since come to find out they're the same thing. A juvenile picture of that one here somewhere. From what I've seen, the adults look amazing. So I feel like that might be one of my favorites, but I've basically only ever had that one juvenile, and for a short term, because that one had crypto. I was supposed to get a pair. One of them died with the importer, if I remember right. That one made it to me and tested positive and went downhill pretty quickly.
Do you think? Sometimes I'm like, oh God. Do you think it's the importers' faults? Like they're giving them crypto when they're like holding them. Do not sue me, by the way, importers. Like they don't even know, right? Because they're just like, because they have to repackage them when they come to the holding facility and wait for customs. Then they repackage them again and they ship them to you. So or do you think it's more wherever they are is a little laissez-faire about it, and they actually just have crypto in their colonies and they don't know?
I can't say for sure, obviously, but if I had to choose, my suspicion is that it's with the original breeder, because so many of these you see appear to be coming from the same source, and it's like a big price list if you see one. Noticed, like right after this happened, I heard from multiple other people. Well, I shouldn't say multiple. I think maybe two, definitely one, that basically went through this same thing. Got some that came from the same import, and lost like half of them to crypto. I was going to say that same source where they originally came from. Kind of after that, I didn't see any offered for a while, like a couple years, I want to say. And now I am starting to see them again, but they seem to be advertised through other people, like in Europe. Like you can tell it's the same genetics, the same the animals.
Right. I'm laughing because I'm crying inside. Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I know that person. They seem reliable, but it's from the same source. So it doesn't matter which wholesaler is getting it. They all are potential liability.
It may have been cleaned up now, but I haven't tested it. And obviously when you spend a lot of money on a dozen or so of these snakes, and half of them have this basically incurable, lethal thing that you don't want spread through your collection, then it's quite a risk. So I'm pretty happy to just deal with what's in the States at this point and try. Of course, you still have to do your due diligence, but
there is a lot of stuff in the States. I think people maybe aren't as successful breeding it as they wish they were. Like this is supposedly a Chassin.
Yeah, that looks so cool to me.
But there's these ones. Are these ones Chassin? Like where's Mozdok?
Mozdok, Barnaul, and Altai, Altai.
Are those all the same
melanistic forms, but they're all different localities. If you want to, let me try to dive into this a little bit. So there were some that were called Tenebrosa, and you've already scrolled through a few that looked similar here. But
all right, let's go back.
There's a couple different phenotypes that are sort of.
Oh, the red ones, the solid red ones.
Okay, so that one was marketed as a Vipera. That one would be.
This one was marketed as a Vipera?
No, the last one you had.
Okay.
They're all Tenebrosa as far as I can tell. Tenebrosa used to be a subspecies. Hold that thought. Let me read a note that I made here. So Tenebrosa in Greek means dark and unicoloured. The region where these were originally described from, it was eastern Kazakhstan and the adjacent Altai region, Altai. Like I said, I don't know how to say any of these Russian and other Asian.
Isn't Altai in the Caucasus Mountains? That'd be Kazakhstan.
No idea. It probably.
So chime in.
But it said the description said Tenebrosa is unicoloured olive, brick brown, or dark cherry in coloration. It was described in 1929 as its own subspecies, but then basically it was sunk back in with the the subspecies was done away with. It looks like 77 and 93 there were publications that kind of undid that.
Well, some of the Tenebrosa, I think people like that sort of monochromatic look because it's very red. Let me find the
Yeah, I had one that was like a dark wine red collar that was
Like these ones.
yeah, in person they look a lot cooler. And they have like a dark black interstitial skin, like the skin between the scales.
Yeah.
And you'll see that on the ventral scales too. It gives them kind of a lined pattern. That was her. Yeah, that was the sort of unicolor.
Yeah, this is a cool look. I guess what we're all still working on right now is like we'd like to keep them pure, but like what is the inheritance if you mixed this plus a Vladivostok orange? You know, like does it no pattern
Fox,
red?
I think it's called Fox Science breeds Diones. He basically paired those, a Vladivostok, or no, I'm sorry. Well, I think he did both. I think he did a Vladivostok to a Tenebrosa and a T positive to a Tenebrosa, and he basically his results suggested that it was pretty well dominant. Like they all came out patternless.
Tenebrosa looking.
Yes, in fact, that the one that you just had pictured a minute ago, the patternless one, that's a male. Not that one, but it doesn't matter. It looks similar enough, just a little bit more orange. Yeah, I still have him right now. He is actually a Het T positive from Fox Science. So, I mean, to me, he looks just like any other Tenebrosa that I've seen, but he's an outcross, and all of his siblings looked essentially the same. But you will see some pattern on some of these, and that's where you get the Vipera, what they called I think the Situla phase, like a leopard rat snake.
Do you think that form only comes from this locality? Because some of these look more...
Well, it mentions the adjacent Altai region too, and those Altai animals have kind of a distinct stripe. It's not at all like the Vladivostok stripes.
No, yeah, it's definitely different looking, and they're
my hunch, which I don't know these people personally, but just seeing that you get these reds and browns and all these different patterns. My hunch is that a lot of these Vipera, Situla, Tenebrosa are kind of selectively bred, maybe outcrossed, and maybe you introduce a little pattern and get something that connects a little bit, and they're calling it like a viper mimic, a Vipera. That's just my speculation. I don't know for sure, but
did you ever get those Barnauls?
I've never had it. No, I've seen them
from the Portuguese guy.
Oh no, I kind of lost contact. He just stopped talking to me.
Oh, he did?
It happens with some of the Europeans.
They're like, stupid Americans.
They probably
they're cool because they're almost like a yellow rat snake reincarnated.
Yeah,
because they're so striped.
I like the ones that are more contrasty myself. Some of them are like black, like all melanistic, but some of them are like a light gray with black stripes, and I kind of personally like that look. And I've seen a few that were banded in that same collar scheme, and I'm kind of all about contrast. So everybody's got different taste, but okay. So that one picture, the orange striped one there, that was an Altai or Balnal to a Vladivostok cross, and you see
this one,
the one below it.
This one.
Yeah, so it kind of got that Barnal or Altai stripe pattern, but with the Vladivostok collar. But to me, a Vladivostok stripe has kind of like a more like a striped corn snake look to it. It's just a washed out kind of stripe. And I've got pictures of others showing the change as they matured, so you can kind of tell how they change. I was going to go over that whenever it's a good time. But
I wish I could find the pictures. Oh, it's this guy. I just like the high contrast version is very cool because it looks like this, but the base is gray or cream.
Yeah, really light grayish.
So you can have a melanistic version that's Chaucin, so like checkered. You could have a melanistic that's just like uniform, and you could have melanistic stripes. They're like garter snakes, I think, where they just produce melanistic phases all the time on accident everywhere, like independently.
From what I've seen, I kind of just sort of stalk some of these European pages and look at what other people are getting. As far as I can tell, the melanistics, whether they're the Mozdok, the Barnal, the Chaucin, whatever, they all seem to be more or less polymorphic. I don't see anybody talking about hets, and I don't see people pairing two non-melanistics and getting melanistic babies, but I see two melanistics being paired and kind of a variety of offspring. So I think it's polygenetics, just sort of a natural.
What if it's dominant?
Maybe, I don't know.
So you just need one I don't know either, because I bred a orange Vladivostok to the Chasen. The babies all look basically normal.
Yeah.
Ooh, exciting. They're maybe a little bit darker, but they aren't changing to be darker. They just look like normal Diones Ratsnakes.
I've paired the same T-positive male rat snake to 2 different Vladivostok females. One clutch was all bright red Vladivostok looking het T-positives. I mean, you'd never know they were outcrossed to look at them. The other clutch mostly looked like kind of a typical Chinese animal, I would say, but with a little bit of extra red and orange color on some of them. So basically, one female was a little more red, one was more orange, so one was a little more saturated, and essentially one clutch, they all looked a lot like the father, and the other, they all looked a lot like the mother. And I've had weird results too with Vladivostoks. I've bred banded to striped and gotten all striped offspring, all banded offspring, and a mix. And in fact, with those red het T positives I have that look like Vladivostoks, they all came out striped, and the pairing was banded to banded. So,
yeah, I think sometimes I'm like, yeah, it could be like all magical polygenic nonsense. But then sometimes I'm like, that's what we thought about crested geckos for a long time. Yeah. And then we just figured out that wasn't true. So then I'm like, it makes it fun.
There's intermediates too. I've got pictures of some that are sort of striped but also partially banded. If you see the picture of like 4 or 5 young ones in my hand.
This one?
No, it's like 4 or 5 baby reds in my hand. Those were the Siberian, some of the first ones that I
got. Did I not copy and paste it correctly?
I don't know. I don't see it. Well, that's an example. Those are all clutch mates. I did a weird thing and just kind of put a cup of damp moss in there to help them shed. That's weird looking, but that was one thing I was going to point out. The banded ones never hatch out red. Like the stripes always come out showing, if they're going to be very colorful, they come out pretty bright red. I should have another picture or 2 of hatchlings. You can kind of see it on the bellies. One of them, it's like a gray hatchling with a red belly.
I'll go look.
You sort of have to give the banded Vladivostok.
I think I lost it.
Here's the photo. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but there it is. I feel like some of them glow up a little bit, but the ontogenetic color change isn't as strong in these as it is in like a Baird's rat snake or whatever. Like they're not going to change crazy.
If you notice that one on the top in the picture, sort of got some little black bars within the stripe. You can almost see if you maybe.
Oh, this one.
No, the one at the very top.
This one.
Like within the darker red stripes, you see how there's sort of like a little checkerboard kind of pattern, darker pigment.
Right.
That's the same female. You just had the picture up a while ago on eggs. Kind of, she ended up being really light orange, a little paler than some of the other ones. But
so this one,
yes, you can see that dark pigment goes kind of like this greenish. It really looks like a light green to me in person. Any of these reds, when I see dark pigment like that, it tends to fade to a grayish, greenish sort of color.
In Vladivostok specifically?
Yes. Yeah, in the Vladivostoks.
Can I ask you a question that you don't have to have the right answer to, because I don't know the answer. Okay. When people call something flame, what are they referring to? Are they referring to like a really red Vladivostok, a red Tenebrosa? Because a lot of those grow up orange anyway, because they're kind of darker as babies. Well, the orange ones are darker too. So I'm like, what is flame?
I've always seen that applied to Vladivostoks, but I think that's pure marketing. Like I've seen flame, red, and super red, and like super red flame and red flame. Maybe flame is referring to the kind of banded non-striped pattern in that case. I don't know.
If they actually grew up to look like this animal, I'm like, okay, that's a distinct. But a lot of the ones in the U.S. that are called flames, to me, look like orange. Like
that female I just had.
Yeah, and that's fine. We love orange. We love it.
My oldest female, the one I've had the longest, looks closer to that one that's on the screen right now. She is a darker, more like a brick red, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I did get one from Tom at Tree Dweller Reptiles. He's another guy that I don't see him out there very much. Not big on self-promotion, I guess, but I got just the nicest baby. You've got a picture somewhere of that one in a deli cup, just to the left of that, in the deli cup there.
This one?
It's labeled Vladivostok Juvenile on the far left there.
Oh, I'm dumb. All right. Yeah, this is more red, but don't you think this is orange?
She
Really?
was very red as a baby, like the most amazing looking baby I've seen. And I think I have pictures labeled Vladivostok Subadult and Vladivostok Adult that show how she changed as she matured. The adult picture that I have makes her look more orange than she was. I guess that's probably the flash. She was definitely more saturated and more colorful than any of the other stripes that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
But not the darkest red. I had some males in particular that were like a very dark, almost like an old school blood red corn snake, where you can kind of tell they're picking up some dark pigment, but they also have like bright red color underneath. And that's one of the reasons
there's a subadult. So this is her when she was a little older.
Yeah, you can see how the dark pattern starts to fade, and in that adult picture, it's mostly just
turned yellow.
Yeah. So a lot of the strong pattern fades as they get older, and I find that they tend to look sort of more, not necessarily hypomelanistic, but just the dark pigment tends to fade as they get older for most of them. The Vladivostok, the stripes in general have almost like a hypo look to them, to me. I've seen some dark ones that are just sort of muddier looking, for lack of a better word, but I don't know. To me, they have just the stripe seems to bring a pigment reducing effect along with it.
So, like, if you were a man who wanted to buy some nice snakes and you wanted to buy nice ones, but those ones are all sold or holdbacks, would you buy normal looking siblings from a orange Vlad to orange Vlad pairing with the expectations that they probably produce some orange babies based on your understanding of breeding so far?
I haven't held back enough to have firsthand experience, but I would not be at all surprised if you got some really colorful babies from like a not very colorful sibling.
Right, like ATBs, sort of. Because,
yeah.
You know.
Do I have a picture called Yellow Vladivostok or Vladivostok Yellow in there?
Yeah.
Sure. So that was a clutch mate. He was like pure yellow. He's also from Tom at Tree Dweller Reptiles. So he might be a full sibling to that red stripe you just had. Like I said, as a juvenile, he was basically just solid yellow. And as he matured, he picked up all of this orange speckling. You see all over his scales, and his head turned red. He was just kind of a cool, unique looking snake. He was sort of a backup male for me that I never actually used. So I didn't really get to see what he produced, but he would have been a good one to test that with, where he was.
Yeah, I just have a lot of people like, I only want to buy orange ones or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but like, you can't, you got to buy something. If there's none available, the only ones are wild types. Maybe enjoy those while you wait for some orange ones. And a lot of them will produce orange ones.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Breeding, I mean, there are some that are definitely more orange than red, but those even tend to start out looking more red as juveniles to me. So I kind of just call them all reds, like Vladivostok reds in conversation, I guess. But so far, breeding kind of any caliber red to any other caliber red, even the more orangey ones or the less colorful ones, I've always gotten some degree of fairly obvious orange to red in the offspring. I've never had one, like a just sort of brown wild type, nothing fancy looking come out of any of the.
But they aren't all necessarily like basically uniform orange red. Some of them are striped. Some of them are spotty striped.
Yeah.
Some of them are ladder back things.
I kind of like the banded or tiger striped or flame or whatever you want to call them. They got a little more contrast, a little more black pigment seems to hang around. So I like the nice examples of those, but they don't seem to be as common as the stripes, which might be due to inheritance. But I've had such a weird grab bag of results with that I really can't say how that's inherited. But I am really excited to see how those red Het T positives turn out for me, because I'd love to see.
Don't you think you'll get some redder, F2s when you cross them back together? Because, like with the ones that were hets, they're still kind of like jazzy, right?
Yeah, now that's a picture. That's probably from that same website you're looking at. But I had that one because that one's labeled as a hypo T positive and a pale rose. I'm not sure if that was a T positive or a hypo, but he crossed his hypo and T positive lines together, which to me is confusing. Like, especially if you get the two stacked on top of each other, I probably couldn't tell them apart. And that hypo, I don't know if that's from the only hypos I've had were the hypo Khabarovsk locality.
All right, let's show them that. Let's talk about that first. There's a lot. There's at least 3 morphs that are morphs.
That's a hypo Khabarovsk male juvenile. He had crypto and didn't make it, which I hated because he had such a cool collar that was different from the female that I had. She's a lot more yellow. He had this like mint green and a little bit of sort of red along his ventral pattern. I would have really liked to see what he looked like grown up, and that was a bummer. But
yeah, he's cool. He's like almost, I don't know, like Montane embryi green.
Yeah.
That's not green, but it's kind of green. I get it. Yeah, let's do a clutch picture so people can be like.
That's where the hypos really stand out, is when they're hatchlings, I think, because you see how dark the normals are there.
Right.
Looking at the adult hypo Khabarovsk, they have so much black pigment still that I would never look at one and be like, oh, that's a hypo, because it doesn't look like what you imagine a hypo snake would look like. But when they hatch out and you see this clear pigment reduction, just that dirty wash gone, and it's recessive.
Is it recessive?
I haven't produced one yet, but I keep seeing them labeled as hets.
Okay. So, all right, I believe you. I've never heard. Like, I also, no one's ever, and then like the T plus and the T minus are supposedly also recessive. But everything else, I don't know if anybody can say with certain. But the patternless is maybe dominant.
Yeah, the Tenebrosa seems to be, at least.
Okay. Right. It's exciting. Nobody knows. Literally nobody. Like, in my Chaucin, she has no color underneath. 0 color. So, like, I think she's exanthic, too.
I remember, I want to say my, melanistic Far East male that had crypto, I want to say he had, like, some red pigment that you can kind of see between his scale. He did seem to have something black and white.
Mine is completely monochromatic, like... I expect something, it's like if it was just melanin on top, but she is nothing. Who knows?
There's a lot of tinkering to be done with them, a lot of playing around.
Yeah, and even the ones, let's give them some credit. The ones that are like normal and boring, they're still pretty cool looking.
Well, that one ended up being bright red. That's one of those Vladivostok blotched or banded.
They've turned red.
You see the belly there, how it's red?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole snake ended up going that color, but
that part's cool. But like, people give like Beijings a hard time. They're like, "Oh, it's boring." I'm like, "Get fucked, nerds! It's not boring."
Those Beijings, to me, those were the first one in the first group that I ever got, and I got them as I got some adults and some juveniles. I've never seen other ones like that available.
The other have cool like
market
Okini borders.
My cyans or whatever. And I loved how they had those red blotches. If you kind of look within the dark stripes, all those were like blood red.
Yeah, and they're cool.
Some with red, it's like that, and a bright yellow ground collar, like way more colorful than that.
Right. The one I have is quite yellow generally. The saddles are kind of orange, but she's got a lot of pink and stuff. But she's like pretty like happy, fun looking. But this is cool because it's just different. It's different. It's cool. People are complainers, is what I'm saying. To me, they're like garter snakes or something in some ways, like very polymorphic. They're small, but they don't need fish. They could eat a little pinky mouse. So like, let's go. Sounds great to me. Purple Church has a question. How's their feeding response as babies, and do they take frozen thawed pretty quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I had one not want to eat anything this year. And then I put it in the refrigerator, broom-ate it. And then it never ate, even after I took it out.
I think I lost one hatchling out of all that I've produced that never would eat. And that one was a clutch. I'd have to check my records. I want to say that female was egg-bound, and I managed to get one good egg. And it hatched small. It was just one of those, like, the only survivor of the clutch, and wasn't a great strong hatchling to start with. Every other, any normal clutch that's hatched, they just take frozen thawed pinkies like you would dream every snake would. No problems at all.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily need, if they're going to eat and live, they don't necessarily need live to make them do it.
Yeah, I've never had to use live for anything.
Yeah. If they're not going to eat because they're like, I don't know, failure to thrive, they're just not going to eat.
Yeah.
That's my limited experience. Chris is here. Lisa likes red. Looks like a brown garter. Yeah, kind of, but they have like a latte head. And like this, they do have like a garter build, like a little thicker, juicier.
Really boxy heads. I don't think it shows very well in that picture. But it was like a Lego block, just this big squared off rectangle of a narrow, long head. I haven't seen head morphology like that on any of my other ones.
They're like tiny 100-flower rat snakes.
Yeah, kind of. And with the Khabarovs, the Hypokhabarovs, they seem to have bigger eyes. There are some sort of structural differences in these locales that I've seen. And as snakes, like you mentioned, there's a huge size dimorphism in adults too. Males are tiny compared to a
tiny
female.
They're like male hognose, Western hognose size, like a little dewdrop.
Like a medium mouse would be a big meal for my biggest males.
Yeah. I think that's cool. To me, that's cool. People are like, I need it to be as big as possible. I don't. I think it's cool that they're colorful, polymorphic, morphs, locality. Itty bitty little package. That's still easy to take care of,
That Beijing picture in my hand, I mean, that's about as big a one as I've seen. They're kind of stocky. I would describe them as a big female as being as stocky as a large adult corn, but not as long, if that makes sense.
Right. For sure. I think that's good. They don't escape as easily from tubs.
Yeah.
This is relevant if you breed corn snakes. Because corn snakes are, and like bears, rat snakes, super squishy. They can squish themselves more. These ones can still squish themselves, but not as much. So I can put a baby, not a baby, but like a male Diones in like a 55-40. But I can't put an equally same size corn snake because they'll get out the top. Or bears. They're even squishier. I swear bears in the wild, they must like 16th of an inch. They'll like slide. They're like the tiniest crevice in a rock. I don't know how their skulls are formed, but it's...
The first Beard's rat snake hatchling I ever got escaped the first day I got it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They're designed to be smushed. And so they will be like, oh, not a problem. You gave me a 16th of an inch. That was too much. So goodbye. I'll see you later. But these aren't quite like that. I think they're not as squishy. It's pretty squishy, but not as squishy. Which I think is like a benefit of hognoses. Because hognoses aren't escaping anything anytime soon.
Yeah.
So It's like a good compromise.
Yeah.
I do you so some crazings were imported into Canada. Have you seen them in the States? Let me show a picture. Ever.
I believe Fox Science has one.
Did he get them from Canada or did he get them?
I'm thinking he got all of his from Canada, if I remember right.
Well, let me show people.
Don't recall if I've seen current pictures. So I don't know if he still has it, or I'm pretty sure I remember seeing a photo of one that he had at some point. Yeah, like that Beijing line right there. That looks an awful lot. I mean, that basically looks like my Cheyenne, whatever that I have now.
Yeah, my
looks nothing like the ones.
China yellow looks kind of like that. More like this than like that. It's not as quite.
And my Chinese breeders I got as juveniles, and they had like no color, maybe a hint of a little bit of sort of greenish or something. And my female has a solid orange belly. They both have orange bellies, orange sides, a lot of kind of green and yellow. Now that color just comes out of nowhere on those.
Yeah, I love that. This like crazy ombre of green and black.
Yeah,
and stripe.
On my Facebook business page, I took some kind of scale detail pictures of my female. They're so cool to look at up close. They've got just this great color scheme. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the T positives. I've always liked T positives. I've never really liked albinos as much. Like I said, I'm into contrast, and where T positives sort of, well, the first thing that really got me into them was moonshine greenish rat snakes. I had seen pictures online and knew the story about them, and then I saw an adult in person at a reptile show, and it was just like highlighter yellow, just amazing to see in person.
Mm-hmm.
Lava corn snakes that I saw were the same, which I don't know if lava is technically T positive, but it looks to be kind of a similar type of morph to me.
Yeah, I think you could call it T plus. Yeah, T plus is better, and it makes them more able to handle UV light if you're going to use UV light. So, but
pupils until you get a good light, and then it's like a dark ruby. Actually, they still get kind of like a grayish look to their dark pigment. I don't know. They're just not all faded and pink and white, stereotypical rhinos to me.
So this is the close-up shed, the scale pictures.
Yeah.
See, it's like weird and green and coral and dot and highlight and pink. I don't know. It's just a lot going on. It's all fun.
I've got a point and shoot camera that's over a decade old, so these are not the best pictures to do anything.
No, they're. I think it's cool. I think they're cool. They're lightly keeled but not strong. Like I get, no offense, but I get a little bit of the like tactile ick from Russian rat snakes because they're like more heavily keeled. I'm like, what are you, a Nerodia or something? Get the heck out of here.
I like how that pattern sort of reminds me of a beauty snake a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Longitudinal striping. Yeah, they're just.
Shane's here.
Details are cool looking.
Are they musky? Have you ever been musked?
Those very first Beijings that I got as adults, they wouldn't like sling globs of it, but I remember they would sort of just like open their cloaca. And it had a weird scent. It wasn't, well, I was going to say it wasn't terrible, but it's not like I liked it. But
I mean, you were in. It's fine.
Snake that gets on you, you're just like for a day, it's just going to stink. It almost smelled like a weird food seasoning, like some kind of spice that you don't really want to taste, but like, oh, somebody's making something exotic. That's kind of what it smelled like to me. The rest of them, honestly, I don't know that I've been musked by any of my other ones now that I think about it.
Yeah, they're just not that worried about it. Even I feel like I have smelled some musk. It doesn't smell that bad. They don't do it that often. They have to really make them mad. They also pop easy, which is a good point to make, because not all European or Russian or Asian rat snakes pop. Some of them have to be probed.
Although you want to go way down the tail because the males are
packing heat.
Yeah, you can visually sex them once they get a little bit of size to them. It's obvious.
Right, because the males are both basically, I don't know, they're kind of like hognose males where they're just like a de facto pair of testes and a delivery device.
And it's weird because like if you're not used to this species, you could look at a female and be like, oh, that's a male snake. Look at that big, thick tail base, and it's kind of long. But then you see an actual male, and you're like, whoa, never mind. That's what the males look like.
Yeah, and crazing is named after like pottery design.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Crazing is a kind of like crackle.
I thought it was like a translation error from Russian or something.
It's like this, like the
really?
formation of cracks. I don't know who named it that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But I think this is a morph too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, but I think it is.
I've seen hets offered, so presumably it's recessive.
Yeah.
And I've seen them offered in a lot of different colors, like reds, green.
Right.
But that's one of those. They were one of the higher priced ones originally, and I was like, I'll come back and get some of those later. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to gamble with crypto for those prices. So.
Right. And that's I think what's holding the species back the most is like everyone who's interested in them tries to get some, half of them die and some of them make it. And then, so you're always sort of playing catch up constantly. And you're like, oh, we don't have that. And I don't know. That's what we need is like a cleaning up of the species, basically, disease-wise, so that people could get more of the localities and morphs that they want because they're cool without having problems, you know?
I don't want to slander all these Asians and Europeans. They might all be clean now. None of them have crypto. But I had 2 bad experiences, and I don't really want to gamble with it again.
Yeah, and we don't know where or when. And I've gotten stuff I know was imported, and I know when it was imported, and it has always tested clean, and it went through 3 flipper dippers. So, like, they're not all messed up. I would just be, like, very paranoid.
Yeah, and it's different if you get one, you know, within the U.S., you're like, hey, this thing has crypto. Give me a refund or something. Deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if you get it internationally, it's like, hey, is the importer at fault? Is the breeder at fault? Did I even get it from?
Right, you have to eat it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Who are you going to hold responsible, and how are they going to take care of you?
I like the Vipera form. I like all of them. I'm going to be clear. But I feel like I want to see more and more and more and more. And I want people to, you know, work on selective breeding projects and morph projects and everything else. What about that? What about what I want?
Yeah, I mean, all of these pictures you're showing, that's like the full extent of the variation to be seen on the internet at this point. And they're all from that one source. So we don't have anything that competes with that in the U.S. now, but we've kind of got all, if not most, of the building blocks to make this sort of stuff. And
Except
some
for
other
those
things. Some
gray and black striped Barnauls. Those things are nuts. We didn't any of that was from the Portuguese guy.
I'd love to see if you could get like the Vladivostok red collar with like bold black stripes, like from a Barnaul or Altai or something like that.
You think you could? Don't you think they're almost the red is a hypo?
Yeah, I mean, you could.
What do you think?
I have seen a picture or two of some that were like relatively boldly banded, like the tiger stripe kind of look.
And it was still dark?
Yeah, but I've never seen any that were like that solid, thick black melanistic sort of pattern that some of the, like the Barnauls have on those lighter gray ones.
Like, I don't, like, it would be cool, like, if you could make like a cock's-eye. I just don't know if the snake can, but maybe.
I mean, you could for sure, and what I'm working on is get the, you know, T-positive albino into the reds, or crazing, or hypo, one of these other recessives, and combine it with all this natural variation. You know, just bring out more of the collar. I mean, even just selective breeding, I don't think there's been a whole lot of that done. Because
yeah, not really.
Colorful non-morphs we're seeing are essentially just wild types.
Right. And I think people, like I said, like people are like, oh, I only want it if it's already bright orange. I'm like, that's not the point, I think, right this second. I think the point is many people need to get them and work on them and have a pair or two and just propagate some of them.
Other than the us, there's like 3 or 5 or fewer people that I know of in the States that have bred them in the last 10 years or so. Like,
what?
Anybody could be doing anything with them.
Do you have any thoughts or feelings about the probability or possibility that some of the Diones rat snakes in captivity in the U.S. are twin spots or twin spots Diones intergrades hybrids?
That's interesting because I saw a listing like a year ago that I remember thinking, I can't remember if they were listed as Bimaculata or Diones, but I remember thinking that sure looks like the other species to me. Like,
yeah,
that's right.
And they do look very similar.
Yeah,
they're just not as, their range isn't as big and they aren't as diverse, but they are sympatric. I just don't think.
I won't mention any names, especially because this is somebody that's kind of a big name, I think. But I messaged somebody one time about some Diones that I was interested in. And the parent pictures I was sent, one of them was a Bimaculata. And I was like, oh, hey, I think you sent the wrong picture. That's a twin spot. And he was like, no, that's the parents. And then I sent a screenshot from that person's Facebook page. And I was like, you called it a Bimaculata here. It's like, oh, must have been a different one. I got mixed up or something. So.
Oh, no. Here, let's.
Fuzzies. I mean, it may have been kind of a weird confusion mistake, but you would think everybody would know their own snakes enough to, especially if somebody called them out like, I think you got the wrong picture. They're like, no, that's definitely the right one.
Like, do you think they're trying to, I don't know, launder them as the more popular one? They're cool in their own way. We don't get all these, like, really weird ones, which I would like.
Barbell, what I call the barbell pattern. And, I mean, really, it seems like it's once or twice a year that I see any available in the state. I think there's a pair on Morph Market now, and they look nice. They're cool looking to me.
Those look, let me air quote this because I don't actually know because I haven't tried. They look Bimaculata. They don't look in between.
I agree. I think they don't.
You have that like flatter head.
Used to look at them, then I'm like, oh, I'm suspicious of those. Now, where they came from and all the backstory, I don't know. But,
yeah, the barbell look cool, but they're also cool. Almost the same idea in many ways, just a different species, like a sister species.
Yeah, I could definitely see how some people would mistakenly misrepresent one, or maybe even interbreed them. I haven't kept any of those myself yet. They're sort of tempting. They're so close, but at this point, I'm far enough into certain projects and holdbacks and everything that I really don't need to add anything else. But yeah, they seem like they'd be a lot of fun.
You always need to add something else. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well,
every time
I've got to talk now, and I don't have enough time.
Yeah, every time I talk to a Korean online, I'm always like, tell me about your snakes out in the bushes. And they're like, we're not allowed to keep them. Like, they can't go out and catch rat snakes or Diones. Where they're like, yeah, I kick those out of the way all the time because they have Diones. They don't care. They're like, give me your corn snake. I'm like, okay. And that's how it goes, I guess. It's like, it's so funny. He pays to import a corn snake, and I'm like, just box up whatever you got in your yard. I'll take it.
Yeah. I do have those redback rat snakes. Now they're Xotics. Used to be Elaph, Rufo dorsata. They're live pairing, so they gave them their own genus. But they kind of look like a smaller twin spot or Diones rat snake a little bit. But they're semi-aquatic. They're kind of like.
Oh, you had a picture, right?
Snake to me. Yeah, I threw a picture of one of those. You said something about oddball Colubrids, so I threw one in there just in case.
Yeah, they look like they're related, but they're not. Is that, or are they?
I mean, they used to be considered kind of closely related. It's just that they give live birth. I think that's why they separated them. But I have an egg picture there you might want to show too. I think I labeled it fertile eggs because the year that I got those, I was like, oh, I got all slugs because they looked like water balloons. Like they flexed and wrinkled and they were just thin shelled. I've had a little bit of a range in Diones eggs, but for the most part, they seem to be pretty thin shelled and sort of like one of those. I don't know. You kind of get some of these what I think of as transitional species, like if you've ever seen reticulated water skinks. They lay eggs that hatch sometimes like in a day or sometimes a week, and they're kind of like this. They're just this sort of flexible membrane. It's like don't even bother calcifying the thing because it's not going to be incubating that long. So
yeah, there's a Diones sister species that is oviviparous now that looks like a Diones rat snake basically. That was described 10 years ago. What is it called? Do you remember?
The redback or frog-eating rat snakes, whatever they call them, are the only ones I knew of that were live bearing.
It is called. It looks like a Diones rat snake. Hold on. Oh Lord. Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm looking at the paper and they're doing the thing where they like slow roll the species name. Come on.
This might not have been on my radar. I might not know about this one.
Oh Lord. What about this one? Come on, ResearchGate. I just want the full text. Nope.
They never throw the species name in the abstract either, do they? Like,
I know, because they're slow rolling it.
Right.
Unacceptable. Sorry. Let me try to pronounce Chinese.
Lisa, they're musky in my experience. Oh, and speaking of my experience, I never quite delved into the Diones specific part of this. I think it was 2018 I got my first individuals. I didn't breed any until I raised up the Vladivostok hatchlings that I'd gotten. So it was like 2021, I think. So it's been like, 5 years that I've been breeding these things, and not in any kind of huge numbers. I've had maybe 4 different females. I've bred, some of them multiple years, but, I don't go back decades with these things. I'm probably more experienced with most at this point, but like we said, there's just not hardly anybody doing a lot with them consistently in the U.S.
All right, the new species is Elafe ganziensis, which is like a sister taxa to Dione, and Bimac would be like the outgroup. A lot of people are like, this is like an interesting thought, but like everyone's like Shinriki's like basically the same thing, but it's actually like really far away from like this group, and Climax are more closely related to Diones than Shinriki. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
Check it out on the internet. But that one, because that one is very montane, is oviviparous. It has no, like, not even a soft shell or whatever. It's like finished the oviviparous evolution. Yeah. So your little, all right, let's show the frog eaters. Redbacked. What do they call them these days?
I've heard them called redback rat snakes, frog-eating rat snakes.
Not Chinese corn snakes?
They probably, I think Chinese garter snake would probably
Chinese garter snakes.
Because they give live birth, they're small, they're semi-aquatic. But when semi-aquatic, they tend to eat fish and frogs naturally. Mine are like never in the water. I basically treat them just like extra small typical colubrids, and they do fine. That's actually, I'm not sure how old that picture is. It might have been kind of like a sub-adult male at that point, but my adult males take a pinky, and it's,
plenty.
Like a decent, yeah. The female is, again, just like Diones and Bimax and all this other stuff in the group, noticeably bigger. She would probably be good on fuzzies, which I've given her some, but I don't know how well they do digesting hair, so I've been erring on the side of multiple pinkies for her, just because a lot of this sort of not typically mammal-eating stuff can have trouble digesting it. But they were actually really easy to switch to mice. These guys, I got these as newborns, not hatchlings, since they didn't come from eggs, but just tiny, tiny little things. And I mean, I was feeding them like pinky legs, I think, originally, stuff like that. And I just did a little bit of scenting with, I think I tried fish and frog. Seemed like the fish worked better from what I remember. But they switched to pinkies. And then I even tried getting some frozen silver sides and stuff to just diversify their diet. And they seem to kind of not be interested in anything but pinkies now.
Oh, and
Like
you ever tried Reptilinks or?
Yeah. I've not had. I don't know if I've had. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm confusing two things. The Reptilinks I have tried, but not the frog links. But they're
the lizard version.
Juice stuff for scenting I've tried. I never had any luck with that. And I don't know what their process is, but I remember I accidentally left it out and forgot to put it back in the freezer. Found it later, totally thawed out, and it was like it just looked like clear water with a piece of gecko skin in the bottom of it. Like there wasn't pulp. It didn't look like a gecko had been thrown in a blender or anything. It looked like somebody took a piece of shed skin and put it in a bottle of water. I hope that's not all it was because it was kind of pricey. But
yeah, my stuff has never liked. If it works for you, it's fine. But I've never been successful doing that. I'd rather have the animal in my freezer and like defrost it and like jam pinkies in its body cavity or be a weirdo and just have more on hand. Then it tastes a lot like whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. Where I've kept gray banded king snakes, variable kings, stuff like that, I've done scenting mostly for them. And one of the things I've noticed was I got like a pink bellied swift at a pet store because it was real cheap, and I was like, perfect for scenting for gray bands. Stuff with keeled scales like that, if you kind of drag a thawed pinky against the grain, just with the spikes dig in a little bit. I don't know if that like really jams the scent in there or what, but I've had really good results with that compared to like just leaving it in a deli cup with a lizard or something like that. Just like the actual friction of dragging it across and
get chunks on it. Do you think gray bands prefer like I don't even know, like a skink smell versus a swift smell versus some other kind of lizard? Like all those things are sympatric with them. What do you think do you think they care? Like a gecko smell?
From what I've heard from gray band guys, like skinks and I guess little iguanids like swifts and things like that tend to work best. Anoles and geckos can work, but stuff that's like less likely for them to encounter, I don't think they're into. I keep some Madrean alligator lizards, and I had really good success scenting with alligator lizard shed skins once in the past. So,
well, there's some alligator lizards there.
Yeah, and the babies are so tiny. I gotta think they probably eat baby like Texas alligator lizards. So
I just wanted to see some alligator lizards. I didn't see any. I'm a loser. I'm not a loser. I'm a winner. These are cool. Do you like to? What are these like? Oh Lord. Sorry, I can't like talk or breathe, so I'll shut up.
Easy for me. I don't have any real experience with them in the wild. I never go out west, so probably not the best person to talk to about their natural history. But I understand they need a pretty substantial brumation from asking around online a while back. They didn't breed for me the first year, and I just sort of gave them like one of those 60-degree coolings or whatever. People are like, nah, throw them in a fridge or whatever. Treat them like colubrids. So I did that this winter, but if I remember right, I think they've got kind of a weird reproductive time. Like maybe they're summer breeders and they lay eggs the next spring, or I could be wrong about that. But I haven't gotten eggs from them yet. I did breed southern alligator lizards once before, a couple of years back, which, you know, they're a different species, but pretty darn similar. So hopefully I'll get there with these. But
the website says mates in September and October, stores sperm. Embryonic development is arrested during cold winter months. A clutch up to 15 eggs is laid in the late spring or early summer.
Okay, so maybe I'll get some next year if they breed this year.
That's pretty cool.
Which, to bring that full circle, I've experienced the same with Diones Ratsnakes, where one year I was like, why are none of the males interested in this female? Why is she not breeding? What's the problem? And then she laid a fertile clutch of eggs, and it turned out they were from the male I had with her
the year before.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've actually, I want to say it was like September or October, I had witnessed copulation between pairs. So they will breed prior to brumation and then lay fertile eggs after the fact.
Have you ever had one double clutch?
No. And that bums me out for a different reason. That very first female Vladivostok red I had, she was like my learning curve, where she was the first one I bred.
Mm-hmm.
So I was struggling to find information online. I was, I'm asking in these European groups, like, what do you consider a safe minimum breeding size? She was like 3 years old or something. And I was like, she's probably good, but let me ask around. And everybody's like, wait till they're 5 years old or something. And I'm like, well, I basically didn't get any kind of good, helpful, straight answer. It's like, well, I can keep waiting multiple more years, but she's a lot bigger than the male. And I know they don't get that big. So I'm thinking she's probably okay. But I remember I had rat pinkies at the time. And I was like, all right, let's feed her well. And then after she laid, I was like, all right, she might double clutch, so let's keep feeding her well. She ended up getting fat, got like the hips. Mm-hmm. Didn't double clutch, which I eventually kind of slimmed her down again, but she's got just sort of the mom build now, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that mom bod,
She doesn't have the big hips anymore, but like if you look at her from the side, she just kind of tapers toward the back and flattens out.
Like a pancake butt. That's awesome.
She seems to have good muscle tone and everything, but just
I obviously keep mine awake for a long time. None of them have ever acted like anything was going on in their hearts that would make them want to breed again, or because obviously they can store sperm, but I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Go, sorry. I just say, like, I did accidentally make a climax double clutch once because I moved and, like, didn't feed while I was moving. And I think she thought that was brumation. And so she remade follicles again and then laid them in, like, December. Okay. But I don't think that was normal because she's never done that any other time. So, What were you saying?
I forget. Oh, it's going to be good too. What were?
Yeah, it was the best
double
thought
clutch.
Ever.
Double clutching and how I gave that one female a fat, weird body. She's a good breeder, though. She continues to breed well. It's just, like I said, sort of a bad learning curve there, feeding her extra fatty, frequent meals.
Yeah, they're good eaters, so don't overdo it.
I remember. I was going to say the males, sometimes you'll get one, like if he's housed on his own, he's like, I want out, there's females, I want to do something here. But I've read a lot, like, don't cohabitate because the males will drive the females crazy. And that's really not been my experience. Especially if they're housed together. I don't find that the males pester the females really much at all. And the timing of pairing them, breeding them is sort of weird too, because I've had some breed literally the day I brought them out of brumation more than once. They seem just like literally bring them in the house, put them in the same container, and then I don't see a lot of chasing. It's just they're one of those species that sort of just like looking over here, and then they slip the tails together and they just act like nothing's going on. And forever, like 24 hours is nothing to find them locked up.
They also have huge, huge, gigantic.
It is weird because the females are so much bigger, and then when they're locked up, you still see like the bulge in her.
Yes, her body is deformed, even though she's double his size, like because he's locked in with all of his little spikies and stuff. So that part is a little traumatizing.
Yeah, and they don't look that swollen either. So there's some weird physics or something there.
Right, and this year I only paired like once per adult female, and that was enough. So like I've paired more. I think like because they're locked up, because they know they're gonna die anytime, because they know winter's coming, they're very efficient, and they're just like, okay, I'm gonna just give you a lot of sperm right now, and you better keep it. And they do, and they didn't necessarily lay right away, but they all had like pretty good fertility, even with one lock. Because I was busy all spring doing shows, running around. So like I'm not saying you only do one, but if you wanted to sort of have a little laissez-faire co-housing over the winter during brumation, you would probably lock them. They would probably store the sperm. They probably wouldn't need to be paired at all, but you could still do it. They seem pretty good about being alive, continuing the species.
I've never seen a female lock more than once, either with the same male twice. Or...
Oh, I have hose.
Oh, okay. Mine are like once they lock, they're like, that's it.
Oh yeah, I think once the follicles hit a certain size, I think they don't lock anymore. But I think pre-gaming, I think they'll receive as much genetic information as possible. They're a real dumpster, you know. Aren't we all? We all are a dumpster sometimes. I have never taste tested the scent juice. I have smelled it. But I think the problem is, like, it could smell strongly of the scent when they manufacture it. But when I get it and it's been in and out of a freezer, half defrosted, dribbled out, it smells like freezer burn. So that doesn't excite me. Why would it excite a little snake? You know? That's where I'm at.
I like, either having something dead that you can break off a little piece of skin, or if you've got like a dropped lizard tail that you can just mash into a bloody pulp and just smear a little bit of that on them, something like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty efficient and like a strong way to replicate the scent.
Are there any other health concerns you've ever seen with Diones rat snakes besides like crypto? Like, I've always been like, do they come in with like paramyxovirus ever?
I've never tested for it. I just tested for crypto since that's what I was dealing with. I really haven't had any issues with them. The only other kind of health thing I've experienced was, I want to say it was 1 year I had hatchlings that were really prone to pushing their noses, and they would sort of like tuck their upper snout, get their lower teeth hooked on the front, and kind of get this little bulldog snaggletooth look, and you'd sort of have to help fix their nose and, you know, eventually get them to stop. Do you think
that was because they were too hot in that rack?
Those, I didn't have those in a rack. They were on a heat tape, just sort of in individual enclosures spread out. But come to think of it, I've had sort of worse results with just nose pushing in general doing that. I have some F1 Western rat snakes. I would call them Texas rats, but the parents were from Missouri. And I had them in a large, just sort of like a tub with a heat tape on one end. And they all started pushing their noses really bad. And I moved them to smaller tubs in a rack, and they all just immediately stopped and healed right up. So even with hides and a lot of space, just having that openness, I guess, makes them want to push a little more sometimes and probe the boundaries.
Yeah, and I think it depends on like the shape of the tub, because some of them have weird little, like when they're injection molded or whatever, like parts that a snake can find. So depending on the style of tub, like, you know, the tubs that have like, I think Walmart sells them, they have either 2 blue snaps on the side, or 2 if they're like the 28 quart version, or 4 if they're like the bigger version, but they're not the gasket ones. There's a little spot in there that a little colubrid can like wreck itself in one night if it just decides to, because it's an idiot.
Yes, I've lost snakes to that. I hate that. They jam their head in, and when they're small, it's like they want to get up there and perch, and then they hit a size that they're like, let me just smash my head in here.
And they'll die. Right.
I thought maybe I was the only one that had experienced that.
No. Yeah. So there's certain kinds of tubs that are okay for some species, but some of them will murk themselves because they're dumb. But the gasket tubs inside are perfectly smooth. So if you can find a gasket variant, that's what I would use. Like, it depends on the species and like how hot my house is, but sometimes I'll put stuff on ambient only depending on what's happening outside. And I'll take them out of racks and put them in bins, and that's fine. It's just you have to pick the right bin for the species. I don't know. I don't have very good advice besides that. Because they'll smush their soul out of their body, basically, if they can help it.
I thought I'm doing a good thing, giving them more space. I'm not cramming everything into a small rack, and then they push their noses or smash their own heads. And it's a balancing act. You got to find just the right circumstances for some of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're fine. Doesn't sound like the females should be bothered by the males if they're packing that kind of heat. Yeah, it's ribbed for her pleasure.
Have you seen one of your hemipines like fully everted?
No, let's Google it.
Oh gosh, I'm wondering how spiky and terrifying they are.
It's probably horrific.
While you're Googling that, my battery's about to die. Let me run and grab a power cord real quick.
Okay, we'll talk about hemipines. We gotta get this going. Holy mackerel. I just got scared. Oh. Wrong species. I need that Diones Ratsnake hemipines. All right, let's all look together. These are cool. I'm distracted. Feels like it should look like this, but be spikier.
All right, there's a hornet nest on this electric outlet out here, so I'm going to try to go inside. Maybe.
All right, we can finish up if the feelings are good, because I feel like we've convinced everyone to buy 10 Diones Ratsnakes.
Well, I don't feel like you have to, because I'm having fun, but
no.
Just get to an outlet that doesn't have a hornet nest, I'll be fine.
What about that? I don't know. It's a huge dong, is what I'm saying. Very upsetting. Or exciting, depends on where you're at.
I'm almost situated again.
Do you think, and I know the racers are fine, have you ever kept a beauty or of any kind?
I never have. I've been tempted a lot of times, but
yeah, I think they're cool, but I think a lot of people think if they've had a Chinese beauty snake, they've had the other kinds of vibes of Asian rat snakes, and I'm like, they're all kind of different in terms of how you hold them and their mannerisms, in my opinion. They're not all like that, and they're not that big. So I think a lot of people stop at a Chinese beauty snake and they're like, oh, it's too big, or it poops on me a lot. But they're all different.
Russian rats are kind of probably about as big as I really want to go. It can get a little messy cleaning up the poop if they've had an especially big meal, and I don't really know. I've seen photos, but I think beauty snakes get about the same girth, just longer, don't they?
Yeah, I think it depends on the locality. I just think people are like, yeah, I've already had a blue beauty. I hate all snakes from Asia now. And I'm like, brother, they're different kinds. And a lot of them don't act the same. They're not like a beauty snake or like Carinata or whatever. Some of them aren't big racer type snakes. Some of them are arboreal or small, or they eat frogs or whatever. I think more people need to practice with more kinds, is I guess what I'm saying. Have you ever fed your Russians fish or amphibians?
No, never tried. Fed them eggs and chicks.
Mm-hmm. They do like those. They're supposedly...
They suck at eating eggs, though.
Well, they're supposedly semi-aquatic.
Yeah, I have heard that.
And that's why they're killed, because they're supposed to be holding slippery food items.
Is that why so many aquatic snakes are keeled?
That's what I thought, because then you can
Nobody ever told me. I used to wonder. I was like, why are they all so keeled?
Well, you can hold slippery things, and I think it reduces it seems to have an antifungal the more keratin in the skin, the more antifungal, maybe antimicrobial it is, because it's pulls the water away, What do you think about that theory? But I always thought it was mostly to catch slippery food items.
That makes good sense to me.
And then I went and checked, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're like known to live in like lowland riparian habitat. And then I'm like, why do people always say Russians are super cold, alpine, whatever? And then I don't know the answer to that, because I think we've sort of mismatched what's going on, because some of them are from the most southern part of Russia near China, but they're not really Russian. They're Chinese, Korean Ratsnakes.
Yeah.
And Diones or whatever are your real like Siberian cold weather specialist snakes. What do you think about that theory?
Yeah. Really, those two species, where you were talking about like comparing beauty snakes and carinata and stuff like that, to me, like from a husbandry standpoint, the Diones rat snakes are most similar to a Russian rat. They're like a smaller, stockier, maybe less arboreal version, but they're mellow. They just are problem-free feeders. They like, rodents right out of the egg. Just a smaller, friendly, easy to keep snake.
Yeah, they're perfect.
Yeah.
The only thing I think that's wrong with them, the only thing is maybe there seems to be a little bit of fertility problems. And I don't know why, or maybe it's because I don't brumate hard enough, but some of the eggs in the clutch don't make it. And I'm like, damn, there was only 5 eggs and 2 of them didn't go to term.
Okay. I've had more issues just right off the bat. Like
the eggs failing.
Clutch was I want to say 11 eggs and 5 of them were good, something like that. So just several infertile right off the bat.
Right, I've had that too.
It's not typical. Like, I'm not saying all my clutches are like that, but I have had some years. Like last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they were all first year breeders, but I had 1 Diones female and 2 variable kings that all slugged out. Everything they produced was infertile.
Were the males being dumb and sitting on the hotspot?
I thought about that. In one case, with the variable kings, they just had side heat. And I want to say, I can't remember which one it was. I want to say I kept 1 male pretty much at room temperature, because I wondered if that was an issue. It didn't be a factor in this specific case, but
yeah,
it was like across the board, not species specific. So, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. That's something I've been like, I have no idea. And I have this problem with Climax too, so it's not like a Diones rat snake thing, but there's something about how we brumate, or how I brumate. Every year, I'll have 9 Climax eggs. They all have embryos. At the end of term, 2 of them are fully developed dead in the egg. Every year. And I've done different substrates. I was like, maybe the egg's too hard. I'll cut once the first couple pip. Like, some rat snakes, they overcalcify their eggs. Yeah. That didn't help. They were already dead. I have no idea why this happened.
Were they kinked at all?
Nope. Okay. They were just perfect dead babies. I fed them to the king snake.
This is all anecdotal, but I've had some issues in the past where I've had either kinked or dead in egg babies, or kinked dead in egg babies, when it seemed like humidity was too high, when the eggs were too moist.
Right, I believe it. But I've put them on grates to get them off.
Yeah.
I've put them in with no I don't know. I've done every variant. I don't know anymore. All right. And then I'm like, maybe I should open it up and let it air out, because maybe they're dying, because they're so late term when they die. Like, maybe they're suffocating or something. I don't know.
I've tried some different things the last couple of years. I've done the no substrate. I've done vermiculite, the hatchright, super hatch type stuff, sphagnum moss, sphagnum peat, like the dirt type stuff. I think sphagnum moss is my favorite. Just getting a clump of it, you can it's airy, you can keep it in contact with all the eggs, you can really regulate the moisture well. it's probably become my favorite. So I think I'm going to try to
do more in sphagnum.
Man, what do you think about that? Have you tried it?
I've tried it where there was vermiculite underneath. It was on a grate with sphagnum touching all the parts. Is that close enough to sphagnum underneath?
3 methods that you vermiculite and no substrate and sphagnum? Or
Like,
egg?
Like vermiculite that's moist, so that just like it's moist. And then a grate so it's not touching the vermiculite. So the bottom, because it's normally the bottom ones that are dead. So that sounds like it's a moisture problem, right?
Okay.
And then a little bit of sphagnum on top, so everything is equally whatever. And then not like a super duper sealed up eggs thing, so the ambient humidity is not insanely high.
Okay.
And still 2 on the bottom died.
How stuck together are these clutches?
Like, super stuck. Climax are all about that stuff.
You think it could be a gas exchange thing? Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe. And I'm like, what if they lay all their eggs in a cavity?
And CO2 all at the lower point. So,
yeah. What if they lay all their eggs in a cavity and it's supposed to be not that humid, really? And I don't know. There's nothing wrong with doing it the normal way.
Like with those, are you poking any kind of air holes or opening lids or?
Yeah, normally, but maybe I don't think it's enough.
I've heard this from ball python people, and I hatched my first ball python clutch 2 years ago, so I don't know anything about anything with ball pythons, but the press and seal supposedly keeps humidity in but lets airflow. Have you ever tried this? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I use Flex Seal for most of my most of my eggs that are not Colubrids. I use deli containers now. So they are a little bit more airy because they're not like perfectly sealed. But
that works with no air holes. It gas exchanges through the. Yeah,
because it's not like airtight. It's like the little clips are down on the It's like when you get a salad in.
Okay, so you're not like pressing and making a seal all the way around.
No, yeah, not for colubrid eggs. And for ball pythons, I burp them the last couple of weeks anyway. As the embryos get bigger, they breathe more, so you burp them every couple of days. I don't know why it happens. It just happens a lot. What are the locales you think have the brightest yellow?
The brightest that I've seen have been from China. I don't know what part of China. I think on Instagram I have a photo favorited just because it was like this super saturated bright yellow, but it had like dark black stripes and red pouches. Just a really colorful but also strongly patterned and contrasting snake. Now with the Vladivostocks, you can get some yellows. They don't all come out red and orange. Like that one male that you showed earlier hatched out yellow and kind of picked up some orange tipping. I'm sure with a little selective breeding, you'd probably get kind of pure yellows with those. But like the actual brightest yellow I've seen was on some of those Chinese specimens.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you ever get sex discrepancies in the clutches, like mostly female in later clutches? Ask Lisa.
I would need to check my records to remember exactly how this worked out, but I want to say last year I got 1 male and 5 females in one clutch and 5 males and 1 female in another clutch. There was 1 year that I had like reverse sex ratios, and it was like 1 and 5, which was really weird, and I don't know why.
I feel like the clutch size is small, so you're going to get randomization easier, and it looks like there's a sex ratio problem, but I've had it both ways too, where it's like, and you're like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think something's like specifically killing one sperm over the other. I just think, have you ever had them fused? Like the babies are fused together? No, that's a cool skill I have.
Like conjoined twins?
No, like one embryo is fused, like zipper fused, together. I've had it happen multiple times in the same clutch. Like every embryo is fused to itself.
Oh.
Is that
No.
gross?
Not experienced that.
It's not a good experience because they're alive when they're born, but they're fused. Like the coil, like the head will be here and the tail will be here, but the whole body is fused together as like a little. It's gross. It's gross.
No, I haven't seen that. Other than that one weird year, I want to say I have had pretty well even sex ratios. I don't remember specific numbers off the top of my head, but for the most part, I'm getting a more or less even split.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have a new question. Do you think this is an anery or xanthic?
I've seen that picture before. I think he called it a light or
light.
Yes, it's a very descriptive name, light. I mean, it could be sort of an anery or axanthic, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it.
I believe it too. So that's what I'm saying. We're so close to like, I don't know, having things to do. I just like gray snakes anyway, so I'm in. I just want to know if you've ever seen one of these like in the States available ever. I feel like I've never seen.
There were some called lime too, and I can't remember which one of those lists out of Europe in the last year I saw either light or lime on, maybe both. I mean, there's probably still some around.
Yeah, and I've like since like the market's gotten worse, I've asked different importers. I'm like, sorry, I'm dying it. I was like, will you just import whatever and just people will pick out of it? Just import a bunch. I'm sure someone will buy it. You don't have to like wait to pre-order. Just find it. And a lot of them are like, oh yeah, I'll bring a couple, but they bring a lot of the same one. Like they bring a lot of Vostocks and flames or things they think are flames, but they don't necessarily bring weirder ones. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, just going by what I see pop up on Morph Market, which seems like just little one or two here and there, it seems like anything red and or yellow and usually striped is what people seem to be wanting to bring in.
Do you think that's because that's more commonly bred in Europe, or do you think that's because that's what they think people will want to buy?
I think that's because they think that's what people want to buy, because these lists I've seen with like everything available, I mean, the descriptions, if you don't have pictures to go off of, you know, if you see something that says light or something that says crazing or reddish.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell's crazing? Is it crazy?
But I often see them called like bright red, yellow stripe, and those tend to be priced lower than a lot of these other things too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's these people are like, okay, this sounds colorful and it's cheaper, so.
Yeah, I'd love to like go to Ham or Houghton. I don't know, not German, and just see what's like their slop, right? Like, what do they think is like the $50 pet only version of a Diones rat snake? Which obviously I think they sort of act like that, like, you know, somebody might want it, but like they think that that's boring and it's like gray, like xanthic, and just buy it all.
Because yeah, like, I mean, mystics over there people don't seem to ask a lot for them from what I've seen. Whether it's Mozdok, Barnaul, Altai,
right? They don't really get imported.
I just treat them like normals for the most part.
Right. My big like hang up with importing so far is like, I don't know. I'd love to bring in like 40, but like get like a reasonable discount for the volume and like buy it from one dude or dudette who like doesn't have crypto. Yeah, because a lot of times I like buy a pair, but buy it for my EU prices. You have to like match my prices. I'm like, no, give me all of your inventory, and I will fix. I'll like be in charge of selling. Maybe it should be like a consignment. How do we like fix this problem? Because a lot of them do not want to like sell enough to make it really worth importing that many.
I kind of wonder too, not to really change gears here, but several of the people that I've sold offspring to in the last couple of years, a lot of times will just want one. They won't want a pair. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, males are smaller. I'd like a male. It seems like a decent amount of the ones that I'm selling are just people that want a pet, which they're great pets, but I still don't really feel like a lot of people are taking off, like wanting to be like, oh yeah, I want to pick up this project and make more of these things and see what we can do with them. It's still kind of just
yeah, it's honest. That's a problem. Let's just be clear. Like if too many females get demoted to being someone's pets, there aren't that many females in the whole country, frankly.
Yeah.
What are there, like 100 total females in the whole country? 200?
I don't even know if there's that many.
Yeah, the whole country. So like you can't. There could be more than 200 if you like took every holdback, every female everywhere. But there aren't really that many snakes actively breeding that don't have crypto total. There just aren't. So like too many females going to pet people is actually like detrimental to the propagation of the hobby.
I mean, from what I've seen, not that I'm, big time marketing or anything. I mean, my business name is under the radar. So I'm not exactly well known, but from what I've seen, like I've had these Het T positives available since last year and haven't sold one yet. But stuff like a Vladivostok, just a kind of a colorful snake that's not necessarily anything rare for this species. More people are going to be interested in it, and it's more likely somebody's going to want one for a pet. It seems like people are like, here's this untapped breeding project that like one or maybe two people in the country might have something similar going on. Let me try to get in on this too. Which it really makes me wonder too about like the market price. I've seen prices just all over the place for these things.
I think people are trying stuff because they look cool and they are rare. And my husband, who's being a little snot, scarcity doesn't equal value. I think they're like trying to find what the market will bear for something that's like orange and little. But I think I'm not that interested in that lifestyle right now. I'd rather find someone who wants to propagate them. So if that needs to make it cheaper, wouldn't you rather find a hobbyist instead of like a person who wants an expensive pet? You know what I mean? I don't know how to like self-select for that.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice. I mean, I still get messages from people that bought from me a year or two ago and send me updated pictures. And that's great to see. It's cool to see, especially where they change so much as they age. Like, okay, yeah, here's what I thought that one would turn out look like. And, here's what it looks like now. So it's cool to get that kind of engagement. And, these people are happy. I haven't, to my knowledge, sold one to anybody who was like, I don't like this. This was not. Usually it's like, hey, if you have more of these, I want some more of them. But
do you sell females as pets?
I'm sure I have. I don't remember specifically, but
like, do you think that would solve it? Where like the males could be sold singly, but the females must be bought with a male. Would that fix it, or does that make people inbreed?
Some of these, well, yeah. Some of these people might just be like, okay, yeah, let me sell this male to my buddy down the road or whatever. I just want this pet.
Yeah, I don't have a good solution, but I think it's like a problem. It's a problem where people are like, that's someone else's problem. Like the propagation of a rare species is someone else's problem because I'm doing whatever I'm doing, which is true. But like, I don't know. I'm always like, when are they going to go extinct? Because it was always somebody else's problem.
It's like, just so weird to me that like there's even a problem there. Like once you've kept these guys, they're so fun and so easy, and there's so much potential to make such pretty cool, unique snakes that it doesn't seem like this should be an issue. But I really think they're just not enough people understand them or are aware of them to have that kind of interest yet.
Well, we'll fix that. Jennifer says, biggest hurdle into getting into Diones is not knowing enough about how they will change in color. I don't want to buy something expensive that ends up not looking good. It's the not knowing for me. Well, then don't buy one that's expensive. You could find them not expensive and they're already orange. I think we've talked about this a lot, and I told you you don't need to drop big money. And then like some of the ones that are wild type look better, I think, than you think they'll look later.
The stocks, especially the stripes, like as a hatchling, you've got a pretty good idea what they're going to look like. Anything from the Chinese lines, in my experience, is going to be pretty drab as a newborn and gradually pick up color. I want to say my adults, my Chinese pair, I feel like even after they were pretty well fully grown, they continued to pick up a lot of orange color. Mm-hmm. So they just seem to be getting better with age, even after maturity. But they're sort of more like a Baird's rat snake or like an Okiti corn, where right off the bat they're a little bit drab or just not as exciting. You'll probably end up with a colorful looking snake. And I feel like I've gotten a little bit of an eye where can make sort of a decent judgment call about some of these, but it's just harder to.
All right, last question. Do you think they should be cheaper to make them more accessible or more expensive to make them seem desirable so people will want to breed them because they believe that price means desirability? And I mean like $150 or to like $250 as like cheap, or $400 plus, like $500 plus, like it's a paycheck for like a normal college student, or like, oh, it's okay, it's $150, $200.
I've seen like just the Vladivostocks go for, I want to say, anywhere from like $300 to $1,000 in the last just couple of years. So I really kind of feel like I don't know if anything's really settled as far as what their market value is. I'll say most of mine, I want to say I sold my nicest reds for something like $350, if I remember. And that was
I don't know what the right price should be, to be clear. I'm just like, I'm very sensitive to being like, these are $1,000, and that's like an imported, no health guarantee flame.
Okay. Yeah, you're not asking. You hatch your own, and what are you gonna ask for them? Okay.
Yeah, because when I bought my Vlads, they were in the 200s, and they're orange. They're not kind of orange; they're orange. So, like, do I deserve to charge $1,000? No.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen some prices that I'm like, I mean, and people have paid them. I've seen these things sell for close to that, apparently, unless somebody's getting some big non-public discount. But that does seem too high to me. I mean, they are more scarce than most species, but they're so easy to keep and breed. They're smaller, so the feeders cost a lot less. I mean, you can brewmate them for a big chunk of the year if you want to, which feeding
just go away for the whole year.
Front cost or maintenance costs. So, I mean, I've got a pair of a T positive and a Het T positive female now. I think I'm asking $1,000 shipped for the pair together, and haven't got any hits on that. So maybe that's crazy, but I was thinking like, well, you get 1 or 2 T positive babies. That's like literally, to my knowledge, there's 2 T positive albinos in the country now, mine and another male that's made some other hets. So I thought that was kind of like a, sort of cutting edge thing. And like I said, I'm interested in breeding T positive into reds and the colorful Chinese individuals, and just taking them beyond just a standard T positive albino with kind of nothing added to it.
Isn't that how much they charged for him when he came in? It was like $440 or some weird number
for
that male.
The one that I got?
Yeah. Well, isn't yours from Satu?
No, I got him directly as a hatchling.
Oh. Because Satu imported a bunch in 2021. You remember that import?
They had some. Yeah, I know a guy that got some from them that had crypto. They were from the same group that I got.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like I said, it wasn't just me that had that great luck, but I don't think it came from them, from Satu, but
It was a bad batch.
yeah, basically. I've already forgotten what the original question was. Remind me.
What the price was when they were originally imported. I just saw because they had a T plus, a T minus, a bunch of red and yellow stripes. Like they had a whole like batch of flashy ones. And I think
I think he was like 400 as a hatchling, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like unreasonable then. So if you're around 500 or more for an adult now, I think that's fine. I'm really like concerned and sensitive that we will scare away all the people who would ever actually care about these snakes by being like, they're $1,000.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, dude. Do they have to be $1,000?
Yeah, I understand.
We don't need to stonk them out. Just somebody like them, please. Okay?
I mean, you see, I don't even know what to compare them to. You saw stuff like palmetto corns come out, and it was brand new and totally different, and it was a lot, but at the same time, that's a pretty unique looking snake.
And there was like a culture of keeping corn snakes for people to like, be like, yeah, I'd like to add that project to my corn snakes I already have. Right now, we have a snake that almost nobody has. That's very cool and has lots of appeal, but you can't be like, I don't know, drop a price bomb on the market and be like, we're recontextualizing this whole species and just deciding it's thousands of dollars, which maybe it should be because it is that rare, but I just don't know if that's like the way to get people interested in it is make it like exclusive.
I guess, I'm no...
like it's rare enough to be that expensive.
I'm probably the last person to give good advice on this because I'm like, nobody's buying these. Let's just cut the price in half until somebody buys them, and then we'll figure out what they're worth. But I'm worried if I do that. Like, everybody's gonna be like, "Well, these things are, like $200. Why would you pay more than that for one?" And then you start getting new morphs and cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the right answer either. I'm just like sometimes I'm
with it, like all of a sudden they're worth more than they were a year or two ago.
Right? Is that weird or is that fine?
I don't
like
know.
If people are finding the price and maybe that is the price, then I shouldn't complain about it because I have them, right? But I want more people to enjoy them and not to make it like a weird thing. Like, let me just give you an example. But pre-pandemic, Barron's racers weren't that expensive.
Yeah.
And now they're really expensive to the point that it's like a bougie thing to be like, yeah, I got a blue. And I'm like, I got a blue snake too, and it doesn't cost me $3,000.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much. Like, we don't want to go that far. We can go a little bit. We can value the animal and value the work and labor in it, but not $3,000 for.
Yeah.
Jennifer's gonna buy them cheap and then sell it really expensive to everybody else. I don't know the right answer. I'm just very sensitive to pricing and like tricking people into stuff. I hate tricking people.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, I don't want to be like that guy that's like, oh, hey, I'm asking this for my snakes and this guy's undercutting me, whatever, and cause a bunch of trouble. But at the same time, I don't want to be like, all right, well, I've got to ask this much because this other guy's asking this much. So.
Right, but if let's just say we're talking about Barron's racers right now. We're not talking about anything else. The first person who attempts the new price, they are still kind of an asshole in their own way because they're like, I think these are undervalued. All of you guys were high this whole time, and they should be $3,000 for a blue Barron's racer. Like, that is a bold mood, but he's like saying everyone else in the market is wrong too. And so, like,
well, it worked for Mexican Black Kings.
The Mexican Black King price, though, went up slowly.
Did it really?
Yeah, I did.
I just remember seeing them way up, like all of us. I wasn't looking for them, so as soon as I saw it, I was like...
I went and I wrote every single Mexican Black King snake sale that has ever happened on Morph Market. Ever. It was a lot. It was slowly through time. Like, it was like a natural, like, First they were $35 and then they were $40 in 2008. And then one day they're $150 and they were people just made the choice like, oh, I'll try this price. And so it was a very normal event. It wasn't a constructed event where someone woke up one day and was like plus to $350 for a Mexican black king snake when the year before it was $30. That never happened.
Well, I always heard that the demand skyrocketed in the price because of foreign interest in them. Is that your understanding? Like,
maybe
Asian keepers wanted them, started buying all of them, so then if you wanted to sell one domestically, it was going to cost you a couple $100 or whatever, because otherwise you'd ship it to Korea or somewhere.
That's possible, because the like price rise happened pre-pandemic. It wasn't like induced demand due to everybody being at home. It actually happened before then. But people have said that about a lot of things, and I'm like, having sold to different Asian people, they don't necessarily buy up all of the inventory everywhere all at once. I think people say they do, and they're like, well, they're $300 now because I just feel like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll message a certain people that they know buy up all of their inventory, but then inventory remains in like the people who aren't as online. They're only on King Snake, whatever. But then the person who's the producer is like, the big producer is like, oh, fuck you guys, $300. Because they feel like they can get away with it, but the rest of the market hasn't been like completely purged out of it. That's why I'm always like, I think there are indeed people who are market makers in certain rare species where like, if they feel like the prices should be this, it becomes that.
Yeah. So
maybe you could decide that the Diones Ratsnakes are $10,000.
Nobody's going to listen. I'm not going to. I'm going to. If I try to do that.
You become a market maker.
I'm so jealous of snakes overseas because I've only sold geckos internationally, and I felt like such a big shot when somebody was like, "Hey, I want your geckos because they're better than any in my country." They didn't even say that, but that's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, I just like every time I've sent it to them, they don't even. I don't know. They don't buy out my whole inventory. They don't ask me to go get 10 more. They just pick 1 or 2 that they want or 10 that they want. And they're like, I want these. So I just like don't believe that everything was bought all at once for Mexican Black Kings across the entire. I just think they it's so. I could probably bring up the chart. I have a graph for this.
Well, this is not a Mexican Black King episode, but if you don't mind me getting into it a little more, why do you think it was that species in particular and not things like melanistic variable kings and not cow kings and like either things almost identical or were almost identical with a little different collar? Like, what was it about? I
think there was some kind of top-down moment where someone told everyone publicly that they were cool and they should like them, like a Barchek or a McCurley or something in 2017 or something. I think most Jennifer says because MBKs are better. I think most people don't know what they want until they're told that they should want it.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Well, we should tell people they want Diones Ratsnakes.
I'm working on it. And I don't know. Price is always really weird because I don't think price really has to do with how hard it is, how much it costs to take care of, how hard it is to breed, how rare it is. It has everything to do with demand, really. It's like 80-20. How in demand is it is how much it should be. So I guess if you can sell it for whatever price, then that is market price because someone bought it at that moment at that price. What do you think about that? I don't know.
Makes sense.
I don't know. All right, $10,000 it is. Does that seem fair?
Not really, no. I'd feel unfair charging someone that.
$20,000 it is. The price just got higher.
If you get that for one of yours, maybe I'll ask that.
$40,000. I don't have a graph. Where's my graph at?
So how many of them do you have now? I know you had your Chinese female laid eggs this year. You've still got the Chasen, whatever, female.
So I sold all 3 adults.
Okay.
And I kept all of the babies because I couldn't sell any of them.
Man.
So, whatever. Because I was asking for a lot. Because I was like, I still kind of think she might be het melanistic.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. Yeah.
I don't know. And they're not that cool looking. They're just sort of like normal looking baby Diones Ratsnakes. But nobody wanted them for like a $200 to $300 price point. They probably could have sold at $150 because they look normal.
Yeah.
But it's not like I have a trillion of them. I'm just like, if people don't want to pay $200 for them, I'll just keep them. Why would I be like they're $150? They're not that big. They don't take up that space. I took them to a bunch of shows, including like Dallas and places where people would recognize what they were. Nobody gave 2 shits. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Not even because they're not orange, right? If they were orange, they would have sold probably, but they're not. When did I don't know. I lost the stonk report. When did I do the stonk report about? Was this MBKs? Was it the last one? Somebody who's been there, remind me.
I'm way behind on my podcasts.
Is it this one? No. Any other thoughts while I look for this thing? Burning thoughts.
So confused about what the value should be, because people should want them, but they don't seem to be much in demand. And I think it's because people don't know they want them. And how do you convince them that they want something they don't know exists?
Yeah, I feel this way about like corn snakes a lot of the time. Because everyone's like, ew, corn snake. I had one of those 20 years ago. I'm like, okay, shut the fuck up. Like they like hate them or something. And I'm like, they're fine. They're just a pet snake. And they're like, I would never pay more than $50 for a corn snake. I've heard that. And I'm like, because they moved on to bigger and better things, right? So, but like, there's like an internalized, like not caring thing that happens about all kinds of species. So like, you'd have to like, maybe if they're expensive, people will like them more. And so maybe that's correct. Like more expensive than what they even are now. You're like, oh, it's a Barron's racer, but orange. Wink. Well, you know what I mean? Like it's so arbitrary.
I feel like, well, Colubrids in general, really, but Ratsnakes in particular, just seem like they've always been undervalued to me for as easy and fun and unique as they are. I mean, you'll see like proven breeder adult North American Ratsnakes for like $200 for a female that's like, you turn around and breed and 4 times that maybe with a nice clutch of eggs. And they just don't seem to have good market representation or something. I don't know.
I think it's like a cachet problem because it looks like something they could get in their yard, even if it's not that exact thing.
Yeah.
They don't care as much.
I mean, I'm reading these silverleaf Slowinski, which I know you've got those, and you like those too. But I think I remember you saying that those were really just not popular when you went to sell babies too.
I've never sold one in person, ever. I can only sell them online, like and at a not insane price, like $150. Like it's kind of rare, and like the normals you can do like $100. No, I've literally only sold ones that were like discounted to $50 because they had a kink tail to a pet person. But no fellow hobbyist has ever been like, I know what that is, I recognize it, and I want it. Ever. And I've done a lot of shows, so online only for that one. Because people online, some people know what it is and like it, right? But
Yeah.
in person, even silver leaves are not popular. They're like, ew, another corn snake, disgusting. All right, here's MBKs from 2017 to 2024. They did go up
Pretty gradual.
very gradually, and they're going down pretty gradually. It's not like, and then if you look at the like sales records, they don't like. One person woke up on one day and was like, they're all $300. Like
Right.
one person was starting to do it, $300. You can't see any of this. But like normal people, casual Joes were like, they're all $150 to $250 for a couple of years. And then some people were trying the $300 price point a little bit more frequently.
I'm guessing these were all juveniles. None of these were.
Yeah, I only sorted by like babies under 2 years old. So like if they were born one year and they sold the next summer, but they weren't, they were like slightly over a year old, that would count too, because it would be like a baby that was sort of left over. It was not like a top down thing where someone was like, yeah, I decided that they're all $300. It was natural. It happened naturally. All right, I think we did it, and I'm dying, and you're probably hot, and I'm hot, and now we're all flustered because we don't know what price snake should be. So.
Well, I think unless you've got a good contact that can influence a bunch of people and talk about how these need to be, big thing. We probably just need to embrace the fact that they're rat snakes, and so they're probably not ever going to be worth more than $100.
Mm-hmm.
That's my takeaway.
Is that fair though?
No, but it might be realistic.
Yeah, I think it's fine because they're fine. They're fun. They're not big. They're not expensive to take care of. So like you don't need to make a lot of money off of them because whatever. But I think a $400 to $600 payday for like a fancy pants one was pretty good. That's good money, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems to me if you're comparing to something like corn snakes, there's so many morphs, which they've been around forever and they're way more popular. But you can get so many even combo morphs for, say, $100 or so. I don't know if that sticks in people's minds, and it's like, I don't know if that's a factor. If they, if there's an equivalence there that makes them
Less valuable.
Yeah.
I just think corn snakes have hit the morph snake end cycle where nobody cares how genetically powerful it is. They only care what it looks like. So if it appeals to them, the buyer, they're like, yeah, I like that. $200. And they're like, I don't really like that. $50. So like that sort of future will be there for every morphe species one day, where like raw appeal is sort of the price point. But there is like, I think if a species is overbred in quotes for a while, it can make a whole generation of keepers be like, I would never want to buy any of those because I'm over it. Like leopard geckos, species that shall not be named. A lot of people are like, I don't ever want leopard geckos. I'm like, well, why not? They're like, I just don't want them. I had a bunch a long time ago. I don't care anymore. I want to do other things. So like how popular it is sort of begets a set of people that don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of talking about that, Quirky. You know? I don't know how much they should be, is what I'm saying.
I wonder if all of those ended up selling for that, or if...
You can look at the sold comps on Morph Market. We won't do that because, you know, it'd be specific. And some of them were sold on sale. Some of them were price dropped. Just saying.
Maybe brave and pull them up for auction and just see what people think they want to pay for one.
Yeah, auctions are hard though because it requires the right person there at the right time. You know?
Well, I told you about it. Maybe you'll want to pay $20 for one. Maybe not. It's not the right.
No, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people who are trying to advocate for a lot of rare species, and they're all sort of vying for attention and sort of like an attention economy deficit anyway, where like it's mostly the dominant species anyway. Because I think like even corn snakes, which are like they don't need any help, they actually do too. You know what I mean? Or like Russian rat snakes, they don't need any help. Yes, they do. Like they all do technically. So like they're competing all amongst each other for people's attention.
I do feel like Russian rats are pretty widely known, but don't seem nearly as popular as you would think they would be for their reputation. They do get bigger, but I mean, this is just my perception, but I feel like there's about as many Baird's rat snake breeders out there as Russian rat snake breeders. And
you think?
They both start off kind of plain and get nicer looking, but sort of similar sizes. But Russians just have that reputation for being friendly, which is well deserved and easy. And in a way, they're kind of more exotic. You know, they're not exotic. They're not native.
Yeah, I think being not from North America helps a species like by 20%, just in terms of like bouginess. But I've seen Russians go to shows for $150 on other vendors' tables and not sell. Nobody necessarily wants them at that moment, even though that's like a cheap price relative to morph market.
Is that all juveniles that are still kind of brown?
Yeah. So you would need someone to know what it is to want to buy it.
Yeah.
I think there's less Russians in this country than there are Baird's rat snakes. Like
I could believe that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think snake pricing is made up. What about that?
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Like people, like a lot of it doesn't make any sense, and it has a lot to do with like what someone did 5 years ago that was maybe important in the hobby. They just decided to start listing all of their whatevers at $300 instead of $200, and that caused a cascade of like market price changing.
Yeah.
$10,000 it is.
Just
and we did great. Jennifer didn't learn anything, and we didn't solve any problems.
Yeah, I really feel like we degenerated into hopelessness here at the end. I think the lesson is just don't get into rat snakes unless it's for the love of the rat snakes.
Shouldn't that always be true, though?
Yeah, it should, but I mean,
shouldn't you only keep snakes that you like? You know what I mean? No, I think they're pretty cool and fun. So fuck it, you guys. It's just hard to get going with them, in my opinion, because you're like trying to source them, and you don't know how expensive they should be, and you try to import them from Europe, and they have crypto. Like that part's all makes it hard to like get a bunch, you know. Yeah. So that's all. All right, I think we did it. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Do you have royal diadem rat snakes?
I have never kept one.
Me neither. Maybe next time. And Jennifer enjoyed it. We did it. It was 2 hours and 23 minutes of content. Not good content, but it was content. So, bye everybody. See you next time. I don't know.